How did you come to the United States? What challenges did you overcome?
So I came to the United States when I was 17 as an exchange student. And during that time, because we were sponsored by a host family, I did not have to work, I did not have to make a living, and I was treated like a privileged person. So they placed me at Evergreen High School. And basically all the basic needs, and then they also organized field trips for us to see America. The experience was like an exposure to the United States, and it's kind of like a public relations program so that people from all over the world are exposed to all the positive aspects of America. And we were supposed to be the ambassadors that bring back that goodwill message from America. So I had no idea, what it was like to be real, to make a living in America. So in 1975, my host family sponsored me back. And Vietnam was going to fall into the communists, but I didn't know at that time. But I was given the chance to come, so I came back. This time it was a different story. I came, even the host family is very nice, but at the age of 20, almost 21 years old, nobody depends on families anymore. Even if you are raised here, you have to make your own living. So it was a awakening experience for me. Even though my English was good, but my cultural experience, I was not really exposed to the real life America. So when I came back, my American family did pay for my tuition at Portland State, but it was an international student tuition, so I remember it was $800 for one term. And I came back to America with $40. That's what my family could afford, but $40 in Vietnam, it's like a teacher's salary. So that was a lot of sacrifice for them. So the barriers were facing real America, making a living. My first job was at Burger King on Weiler. And I remember that the manager, I was pulling drinks, the drive-by, then you pull the drinks. And then when it's not busy, they asked me to go out and sweep the streets. And at that time it was, I thought, oh wow, what am I doing here? I had the privilege to come from Vietnam to come here, and then I'm sweeping the streets. So it was quite an experience. And then I started finding out that America has all the social ills, just like in any other country. The difference is that we have a lot more resources here to help poor people, to help people with health issues, to help people who have family problems, with addiction problems. Then I started to discover America in a real way.
You said you went to what college?
Portland State.
We call it gathering. Native Americans, African Americans, Asian Americans,
You said you went to Portland State. So, what did you do after that?
So I decided to go into the social work field, because that's what ever since that bus trip, I always wanted to do something with social issues. So then I decided to finish my degree in social work. And I started working for an organization called Lutheran Family Service.
Got it.
And at that time, there were unaccompanied minors coming from Laos, Cambodia, and Vietnam. And many of them came to America with no relatives, none whatsoever. Some of them didn't even know why they ended up in America. They jumped on a boat. During that time, there were a lot of boat people escaping Vietnam. And some of the villagers organize the boats, build the boats for people who pay the money to escape. So some of the kids came from the village, didn't even know what was going on. They helped repair the boat, and then they jumped on the boat. They left the whole family behind. So I worked with those kids who came to the camp with no relatives, and we have a program that we place them in foster care. And during that time, I worked with kids with a lot of trauma. They either left their family, lost their family, or they lost their relatives at sea. And there was one situation that was very traumatic. This little girl, she was very young. She's about 13. She left. She escaped Vietnam with 8 other siblings. Her family built a boat, and so the parents, because they had a lot of money, so the parents stayed behind and sent all their siblings on this boat. When they got out there, the storm, the pirates robbed them, and she lost all of her siblings. That boat landed up in an island, a deserted island in Japan, near Japan, that belonged to Japan. And some of them ended up cannibal. They eat people's meat. And she recalled that she had to eat one of her brothers' dead body. All of her siblings died on the boat. When they found her in that deserted island, there was just a few dozen people left. She weighed about 50 pounds. She was full of lice. And then they allow us to bring her here. We were lucky to find a family to sponsor her, and it happened to be because I was up at OHSU, and I happened to be talking about the program I work with, and there was a doctor there, a Caucasian doctor, who wanted to find out more. So we ended up placing her with that doctor. And then about 3-4 years later, some of her family came to Australia, so we reunited her with the family in Australia. I can still see her because when we went to the airport to pick her up, her hair was shaved. There was no hair left because there was so much lice. She was on the island for probably...
How many years?
No, just a short time, but because they had to eat people's meat, and they had to eat birds, they had to eat, and so her hair was full of lice, and they shaved her head. So when she came, she was 50 pounds, and her hair there was no hair. She looked like a little boy coming down from the airport. I had the job that I come to the airport, pick them up, and bring them to a reception center and help translate with the language. So then I moved on to work for Portland Public Schools. After being with Lutheran Family Service for 6-7 years, and then I moved on to work for Portland Public Schools since 1987. And actually my first job was here at Rosedale. There was a newcomer program for ESL kids. And there was a teacher named June Harper at that time. I still remember her very well. So basically she was responsible for teaching, and I was responsible for helping kids adjust to the new ways, teaching them about school, helping them get settled, troubleshoot, doing home visits, making sure that their families get all the help that they needed. They were mainly refugees, both people. So we had a lot of Hmong kids, refugee kids from Laos, Cambodia, Vietnam. At that time, it was mostly Southeast Asian students in the 80s.
Okay. You mentioned about kids like escaping, jumping on boats. Why were they escaping?
Because they thought it was an adventure. Some of them didn't even know, oh well, we'll just get on the boat. Some of them their parents sent because they think that it's good for the kids to have a better future, but they couldn't afford it. So they sent the kids first. And if you recall, during the war, and when the war ended in 1975, you had pictures of the U.S. embassy and how parents would just give their baby and said, "Take my baby, take my baby." If you do some research about the Vietnam War toward the end of 75, the end of the war when people were desperate, and they didn't want. They know that with communism, they wouldn't have a good future. So they ended up. They were trying to get to the embassy to leave with the U.S. soldiers and staff, but they couldn't do it. So they just raised a baby, and they said, "Take my children, take my baby, take my baby." So that's how it kind of worked, because when the parents send them out, they send the children and say, "Okay, go to America, have a better future." So it was a mixed group of kids that we have. We have kids who come from wealthy family, who send them out by you paying the way, and we have kids who were village kids, and since their family helped build a boat, and they say, "Okay, this boat is going to go to America, I'm just going to jump on it." And sometimes the parents at home didn't even know that they had jumped on it. There was a story that was very sad. There was a girl that was half black and half Vietnamese. When she came, I interviewed her. She was about 15. And these kids didn't speak any English, so there has to be staff who speak their language. She said, my mother is in America, and I have a half sister who's in America, but I don't know where they are. And I said, "How come they didn't bring you? There are only two kids in the family."
Yeah.
She said, "Because I'm black, my mother left me behind. The other half sister is white." So it was very sad. And I don't know whether she was able to find her mother and half sister or not. And she's now an adult in her early 30s, and she got married and have children. But also the other sad thing was I took her to a church, and the Vietnamese church, and we had a visiting choir that was singing from the black church to come and visit the Vietnamese church. And she sit with me in the back, and because she's half Asian and half black, so her skin is light. If you look at her, you know that she's mixed, but you didn't think that she was totally black. It's very light. It's even lighter than yours. And she looked up at these people who sang in the choir, and she said, "These people look like ghosts." In her innocent mind, she doesn't think that she's black. You see what I'm saying? So when she looked at these people, she said, "They look so scary. And they look like ghosts." But the sad part for her is that in America, she will always be viewed as black. But because coming from her background, first of all, she didn't understand the racial issues in America. And secondly, knowing that her mother left her because she's black, she could not identify herself as black. So she has nothing in common with the group of the black singers that came to the church. So it was kind of an incredible situation for me to, actually I learned a lot from these kids, from my experience there.